Well, hello there and good afternoon. Now, I've been getting more hits recently on the Cerwin-Vega LA165 bookshelf speakers. Now, I've had these for almost as soon as they came out, so I've had them a little over a year now. And I'm getting a lot of hits on them, and I just wanted to go over what it's like to have them for a year. And I have some other bookshelf speakers and some a couple different amps I've tried them on, and they're pretty amazing speakers for the money. Now I'm going to compare them a little bit today just quickly to a couple other speakers I have right now. I've had a lot of speakers over the years, but these are some small bookshelves I have, and reasonably close price points. I got these cheaper Mica speakers, and these are the 000s, and these are like a center channel. I have a pair of them I use for a little near field. Now these ones, I mean, they're $100. There's nothing, nothing to get crazy over, but they're pretty well reviewed and pretty well liked little speakers for what they are. For $100, they got a nice finish. They're built sturdy, and they got a decent vinyl wrap on them. Nothing crazy. You can see there's a little seam there, but for $100, they're a heck of a little deal. But I mean, they can only take so much power, and you play them loud, they're gonna fall apart. But they're miles and miles better than a Bluetooth speaker, that's for sure, especially if you have a pair of them, and they're not bad at all. But if you can run these little Micas on one of those little IEMA or Fozzy amps, get one with the EQ, because with some of those little amps, they can be a little funny with their the sound on some of these, and that's kind of what I feel with these little Micas. I mean, they're good for a $100 speaker, but that's what they are. You don't confuse them with some kind of audiophile, amazing little speaker or anything like that. That's what it is. But anyway, I'm gonna put that down here. You can see here I got the LA165 next to it, and and over here on this side I got these Elac Carina. Now these are pretty well reviewed. These are some serious $1,000 bookshelf speakers, and they got these AMT tweeters. I'm gonna take the grills off all of these and whatnot, and these are 5 1/4 inch, and they're I mean, you need some serious power to run these. These won't run off any amp really. They like a good bit of power. They really do. Those Micas, they can do about anything. They don't need any power at all. They're low sensitivity, but they're like 25 watt max. There's nothing serious about them. But these Elac Carinas, these like some serious juice. Now, what's nice about these Cerwin-Vega LA165, and I'm going to show you, this is what we're really talking about. So, I don't know if you can see how transparent that, their grill's lightweight. It's nice made. I mean, you're not going to, want to throw this around the yard and play games with it, but it's very transparent as far as it sounds. It's just a thin cloth, just snaps in there nice. Nothing crazy. You can see I got lots of CDs and music I can play with my, I'm testing these speakers out. But anyway, orange surround, soft dome tweeter. I'll pull this one off too, just so we can see them all. And you can see the size difference, what you get for $270 for the Cerwin-Vega, and that's one of its benefits. Now, if I'm talking about the sound on them, they sound like a bigger speaker than they are. And, if I spin them around, you can see the backs of them here. Now they got an okay binding post. I mean, they, at this price point, you have to cut your corners here and there a little bit, but they're not bad. They're, you can do, but for $270, you can see how deep they are. This is a deep speaker. As far as their, see the size, and you can, they got, they're pretty solid. I mean, this is such a wide spot here. I mean, if you tap here, they're solid, they're heavy. The material is probably not solid as these Mica. These Micas are like little bricks, but all of these speakers are small. They're not super. I mean, the Carinas are like solid steel. I don't know what this material is, but that's $1,000 speakers. It's a different category. But I'll say this about the sound of them. I still put these Cerwin-Vegas LA165 in competition with these Elac Carina. They don't do everything as good as the Elac Carina, but they do some things better. See, and that's what's kind of amazing about them. They have this large port. Now I've tried them, way up against the wall. They do best a good foot to 2 feet out from the wall where, this port is allowed to breathe, and this large port is almost able to, give a back sound because it's able to breathe so much that these speakers, they can sound really, really big. Right off the bat, the Elac Carina is a really nice speaker in its price point, and it sounds bigger than it should for its size. It's a really remarkable speaker, especially, some of its, you can't put the Elac Carina as close to the wall as you can these. Having this tighter, harder cabinet, they transfer the bass mode more to the wall, so these actually have to be more away from the wall than these do. The Elac Carina has more grit to the bass, but there's more warmth, and there's still decent bass in the 6.5. It's a different, they have different sound modes. It's hard to describe what they sound like in comparison, because the LA165 is not lacking in bass for a bookshelf, but it doesn't have the real punch of these Elac Carinas, which take a lot more power. They're a lot more expensive. The cabinet is much heavier. It's a different category, but as good as those $1,000 speakers are, these LA165s do some things better, and I'm going to talk about some of those things and what you can expect. Now you can see obviously $1,000 speaker. That's what it is. You know what you're getting. But what the thing is that the LA165 can do better. See, these AMT tweeters, they're super clear. They have a lot of air to them. It's, I don't know if you've heard them before. There's a sound to it. It's so clear, it's so fast and precise, but it doesn't have very good vertical off axis. So the sound field, you need to be pretty close within that vertical plane. It goes left to right really good, but the vertical is kind of lacking in it, so it doesn't throw as huge of a high frequency, off axis. So in that aspect, it sounds like a smaller, where a dome has more dispersion. And this is not a bad tweeter. I like the sound of it. It's not as sharp as a clip speaker. It's a little forward. They're not bright, but with the warmness and tone of the LA165 overall, it has a little bit of that, a little bit of that curve naturally. Not a lot. They're fairly neutral with a little warmth and just a little excitement on top, but not being bright. And if you put a bright amp on them, they can sound a little too much. I don't like the way they sound with. They sound okay with the A07 Max, the little IEMA amp. That's this one here. I got a couple of these and, a couple of little play toys. I can hook up the little EQ to it, and you can EQ them all right. But, the Cerwin-Vega's LA165, it's super, they're like 91 efficient. They're, as efficient or maybe just slightly more efficient than the, same clip speakers like the RP600 or 6000. I'm not sure that, the 6-inch, clips. They're, in that realm of efficiency, but they're not as hot on top. They have more warmth, and the vocal clarity you get out of these in the mid-range with jazz. These are, if you're into vocal jazz, the way these sound, on a you gotta have a decent, not necessarily a decent amp, but you don't want to hook these up to, I don't have all the little cheap amps, but if you want to hook them up to a cheaper amp, some of those little, like Dayton Audio, those little tube amps, those, like the HTA 100, the HTA 100 is going to be great paired with these, or even the HTA 20, the small 20 watt one. That would be fine for these. The HTA 100 is going to be banging with this. The clips, or any of the, I have a Pioneer AVR. I have a Hypex TAC amp that makes every speaker you hook up to it sound great. It really does. But that's a $2,000 amp. But Yeah, I mean, Onkyo, Sony, any of the, if you're doing a cheap AVR setup, or if you have one of those kind of receivers, you know, they're going to be fantastic with it. You know, Denon, Pioneer, Onkyo, all those are going to be great with the LA165. But, you know, just, I would kind of stay clear of some of the cheaper IEMAs and Fozzies for them, unless they have, if they got an EQ, you're going to be fine. But some of those like the A07 Max, it can get a little more hot. They don't have the, I don't know, depending on how sensitive the speaker is on some of those amps, they get more towards the treble side. And, you know, that the A07 Max, you know, powers different speakers different with the frequency. It's kind of weird. I'm not sure. If you had like the, I don't know, some of those they're higher end, like the Fozzy mono blocks or something, that's probably all right. But, you know, even if you got a little halfway decent amp, I would say those little tube amps from Dayton are, you know, really nice. Or, you know, those, you know, Cambridge AXA 25 or 35, you know, where Rotel has an A8 now, something like that. Any of those, you know, but you got to be a little tricky when you're getting the cheap Class D amps. But the way they sound with all music, you know, I hook them up to this little Pioneer. I've had them in the fronts. I use them as surrounds. Talked to a guy that hooked them up in parallel, use them as a center channel. And that's where these things really shine, is the mid-range tonal clarity and how natural and open it sounds with vocals. It's really surprising. It's, you know, in more ways than not, they compete with these $1,000 Elac Carinas. They don't, you know, from top to bottom, it's not, you know, they don't do everything as good, but, you know, just being a bigger speaker, having a wider dispersion, you know, having, you know, if you place them in the right spot, you know, with, you know, some of the, depending on your music and how you like it, I mean, I like my Cerwin-Vegas just as much as I like the Elac Carinas. Now, sometimes I might pick this one over that one for different music and my different mood, but, you know, when I hook these up, you know, I move my speakers around a lot. It's amazing what these things do for the money. It's pretty remarkable. I've had them for a little over a year, and I just wanted to do a follow-up, you know, let you guys know how I feel about them. You know, the other guy did Generations Behind Hi-Fi, did a teardown of these and saw all the parts. But you can see how deep they are, even compared to those. I mean, they're not a small bookshelf speaker by any means. That just gives you a little bit of rundown. I'm not sure what else I can tell you guys about them other than I'm extremely happy with them. They soundstage and image phenomenally at their price, having, you know, a better, you know, vertical and off access. You know, they got a great, I think this is a silk dome or a soft dome. I'm not sure exactly, you know, I think it's just a soft dome, soft fabric dome. But the tweeter on it's good. It doesn't get me off. Now the tweeter on the Micas can be a little weird. I don't like it as much, obviously. I mean, it's a $100 speaker. What do you expect? A little 3-inchers, but you know, those are cool speakers too. But you can't go wrong with these LA165s. I've talked to guys that like the one size smaller, and the bigger towers are all pretty good. But I think these, from a lot of people, what I hear, these are the gems of the bunch for this little speaker, for the line. If you need something this size on the budget, it's going to be really hard to beat. But anyway, thought I'd just do a follow-up because, you know, I'm getting a lot of clicks recently on the couple other videos I did that feature these LA165s. And, you know, I have a handful of speakers, and I move them around on different amps and different setups I have here. And, you know, I got these big Tecton speakers back there, and those are my flagships for right now. Those are, you know, got the beryllium tweeters, and, you know, those are like 5K speakers. That's a different category. I need to get a more powerful amp than what I have them on now. But you know, I'm focusing on these Cerwin-Vegas, and yeah, I have no regrets buying these. I love these little speakers. you know, sometimes on some of my music, I prefer to have these playing. You know, on some of my jazz, vocal jazz, I like some of that old, you know, 70s vocal jazz and playing on vinyl. And I don't know, on some of it's hard to beat the natural openness of the speaker. I mean, those will compete with. Now, if you're just talking vocal jazz and you're not, you know, playing it crazy loud and, you know, in a small space and a good little tube amp, I mean, these are going to compete with the best of them. If you're into small, you know, stand mount bookshelf speakers, just, I don't know, that's just the magic of how these, I mean, they get on with, you know, electronic music, country music. I've played everything under the sun on them. There's nothing they do wrong. I mean, they play everything great. They sound good on every amp I've hooked them up to. They're very forgiving of amplifier. Unless you're hooking up a $70 Class D on it, then you might need a little EQ or something. You know, that's more the amplifier than the speaker, but very forgiving. I've hooked them up on the surround channel. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable what they do for $270. But anyway, just a quick follow-up, or a lot of rambling about speakers, but if anybody wants to know, it's definitely, you know, that's a 1 year actual ownership. I'm not, you know, no big reviewer or nothing. I don't get anything if you're talking about speakers. I just record music and throw up a little review here and there and stuff I got and having fun. But anyway, take care. I'll chat you guys later. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to know. Have a good one.